y'all, it's your girl Missniecytv, and I'm here to do a review for Sistas Season 7, Episode 15. The episode picks up where it left off, and Jordan catches Ethan putting the book behind the picture frame, and he's like, what are you doing with the picture frame? Ethan's like, well, you talk about your lady so much, I want to see how beautiful she is. Jordan's like, well, I'm not paying you to check out my woman, I'm paying you to work on my campaign, and Jordan's trying to be all serious, but then he cracks, Jordan's like, I'm just messing with you, man, but if you paid more attention to the campaign as like you do my woman, I'd probably win. And it's a knock on the door, and it's Andy, and she's bringing breakfast, and Jordan's like, what are you doing here? Andy's like, I brought breakfast. And then Jordan introduces Ethan to Andy. He's like, this is my girlfriend. It's like, well, I was on my way out to go play basketball with the boys. And Andy was like, well, if you already had plans, you can go. Jordan's like, well, I'll tell the boys that I can't go because I understand that spending more time with you is more important. Jordan goes outside to tell the boys that he can't go play basketball with them. So it just leaves Andy and Ethan to talk, right? And Ethan tells her how he went to Emory. And this is when Jordan comes back in, and Andy tells Jordan what Ethan said about him going to Emory and all his credentials, and Jordan starts listening more of Ethan's credentials. Andy's like, Ethan, you said you went to Emory, right? My cousin Nigel Barnes went there. He worked on the newspaper. You should know him. Ethan's like, I'm sure he's a great guy, but I don't know him because I wasn't really social back then. I always stayed to myself. Andy and Jordan, especially Jordan, if this hasn't led you to be more suspicious of Ethan, I don't know what. Ethan leaves, and it's just Andy and Jordan there, and Andy is trying to kiss on Jordan, but he's like, you expect things to change just because you brought breakfast and you was nice to my campaign staff? Jordan was like, it doesn't change the fact that you didn't tell me about my pregnant sister being missing. Andy's like, I told you once and I'll tell you again. Penelope didn't want me to tell you. Jordan's like, I don't care. As my woman, you were supposed to tell me. Jordan's like, she found incriminating evidence on this man that you decided not to tell me about. And Andy's like, Penelope didn't want me to tell you. Jordan's like, I don't care. Andy's like, so what I gotta do to fix this? Jordan's like, well, to be honest with you, I don't think you can fix it. I won't be able to focus on you or this campaign as long as my sister's missing and I want her to return home safely. So until then, I won't be able to focus. Over at the salon, Trey is over there to fix something, and once he's done fixing it, him and Pam have a little flirty banter. Once Trey leaves, Pam is like, so how would you feel if Trey hooked up with somebody else? Karen's like, I wouldn't care. I already told the man that I didn't want him because I'm pregnant. Pam is like, so you were being honest about that? Karen's like, yeah. Karen's like, I see what this is. She's like, who are you trying to hook Trey up with? Pam is like, me. Karen's like, huh? Karen spits her coffee out, and Pam goes to get the mopping. When Pam comes back, Karen's like, well, I don't think you're his type. Pam is like, what do you mean by that? Karen's like, well, you talked to me first, and I see more of his type. Pam is like, well, we're both business women, and we're both fine, so of course I'd be his type. Karen's like, I would expect for him to be with somebody less, and Pam is like, good. Karen's like, I didn't say that. Pam is like, the only difference between me and you is that I'm not pregnant with twins with two different baby daddies right now. That makes you a lot more hurt than me. Karen is like, touche, and I'm like, yes, Pam, eat her up. Over at Zach and Fatima are getting Michael ready for school, and Zach goes to put Michael on the school bus, and when he comes back, he has a conversation with Fatima. Zach is like, I'm not liking the fact that we have to send him to school alone, knowing that he can't talk. And Fatima's like, well, the therapist said that it would take him a while for him to start talking, dealing with the trauma that he had. And Zach is like, yeah, I know. I think we should take him to school every day. And Fatima's like, we can't do that. Seeing that we both have jobs and this school's 30 minutes away, and Zach is like, yeah, I understand that, but what if he gets bullied or hurt and I'm not there to defend him? Fatima's like, well, he'll be okay. As they're talking, they hear a knock on the door, and Fatima's like, I know who that better not be. Zach is like, Deja. So they go and answer the door, and it turns out it's Danny. And they're like, Danny, what are you doing? Over in Gary's office, Gary gets a call from Ethan, and he's like, what are you calling me for? Ethan's like, I'm calling you because Jordan wants some information. He's like, if that's what Jordan wants, give him some information, just make sure it's not too incriminating. Gary's like, is that all you wanted? You can go now. Ethan's like, I also wanted to let you know that I bugged the house and your ex was there. Gary's like, oh really? What was she wearing? Ethan starts describing what she was wearing, and the next thing we know, we see Gary unzip his pants, and he starts pleasuring himself, and he starts wanting to groan on the phone. And then Ethan's like, I gotta go. I guess Gary didn't get enough of what he was doing, so he winds up calling Tamara, and Tamara's like, what do you want? Gary's like, I want you over here with me right now. He's like, I want you to meet me at my hotel. Tamara's like, when? Gary's like, no. Tamara's like, I'm not doing that, but if you want me to meet you, you're gonna have to pay for it. And Tamara's like, I just want to let you know it's expensive, so if you want it, you're gonna have to pay for it. During this conversation, Hayden walks down the stairs, and he was like, who are you talking to? Tamara's like, I was talking to my Aunt Bertha. I told you about her, remember? Hayden's like, what she want? Tamara's like, she wanted me to take her to the art. Hayden's like, oh, and tell your Aunt Bertha and all the rest of your play cousins that I don't know to not call here before 9 o'clock in the morning. Hayden's like, stop all that, I gotta go to work. Tamara's like, so you gonna go to work and leave me unsatisfied? Hayden's like, well, I screwed you 3 times. Tamara's like, other guys would be happy to hear from you to ask for more sex. And Hayden's like, well, I'm not like other. Hayden's like, you know, I'm stressed out with this Marie Willis case. And Tamara's like, I'll be happy when this Marie Willis case is over, because I'm tired of hearing about her and her role. Hayden's like, if I were you, I'd be thanking Miss Willis, because the commission that I'm going to get from the case will keep your unemployed ass happy for a while. Tamara calls Gary back after Hayden leaves, and he's like, I knew you would call me back. Tamara's like, I only called you back to tell you that you're not gonna ruin what me and Hayden have. Gary's like, ruin what you and Hayden have? He can't even satisfy you in the way that I do. Tamara's like, so when am I gonna get out of it? Gary's like, there's something you always do, you're back, bro. Tamara's like, well, that's not gonna happen because you have to pay me. Over at the bank, Sabrina and Maurice are eating breakfast in the break room, and they're having a conversation. And Maurice is like, have you found a sperm donor yet? Sabrina's like, nah, but every time I look, I always come across these white frat guys, and I don't want that. Maurice is like, I got a suggestion for you. Sabrina's like, what? Maurice is like, you can ask Kathleen. Sabrina's like, I'm not sure about that. Maurice is like, if you worried about that white girl being the step, I mean, you ain't gotta worry about that because they're not together anymore. Sabrina's like, how you know? Maurice is like, I looked on his social media and it went from in a relationship to complicated to single, so they're not together anymore. Sabrina's like, oh, okay. But you can tell that she's really thinking about Maurice's suggestion. Back over at Zach and Fatima and Danny are having a conversation, and they're like, what are you doing here, Danny? He's like, I'm here to ask y'all for advice, and Fatima's like, so you came here to ask Zach for advice out of all people? Zach is like, what's wrong with my advice? Fatima's like, oh, nothing. It's just not the right person to go to for advice. And Danny's like, well, I'm here because... Danny's like, look, Zach, I helped you with your paternity puzzle, so now it's your turn to help me with some advice. Zach is like, what type of advice do you need? He's like, I want to know the best way to tell my man I'm sorry. And Zach is like, well, that's easy. Give him some Glock 3000 and cook for him. Zach is like, that's the absolute best way you can apologize to him. And Fatima's like, look, girl, don't listen to him. The best way you can apologize to him is tell him exactly how you feel. And he's like, in a way, y'all both right, and y'all gave me some good advice, and I think I'm gonna use it. Over at the law firm, Hayden, Andy, and Miss Willis are having a meeting, and during the meeting, Hayden pulls these files and lets Miss Willis know that her husband was hiding money. He assures Miss Willis that he went through the files thoroughly and carefully, and he's really bragging about it, right? Andy comes in with the alley-oop, and she takes over the case. When she comes in and she has the file too, she tells Miss Willis that she went through the files as well, and she found out that Miss Willis' husband is hiding more money than Hayden could find. Willis' husband had $75 million worth of entities, and Miss Willis is like, thank you. Miss Willis is like, you should be thanking her too, Hayden, because she really saved your behind as much as you was bragging that you went through this case with a fine-tooth comb. Andy goes to her office after the meeting, and she gets a call from Fatima, and Andy tells Fatima exactly what happened in the meeting, and she's like, you should have saw his face. Fatima's like, well, I wish I could have been there. Andy's like, you are kind of late. Is everything okay? And Fatima's like, yeah, we just had to get Michael off to school, and then Danny came by because she wanted some advice. Andy's like, Danny came by? Fatima's like, yeah, she wanted some advice because she's having man problems. And Andy's like, oh. So, you know, we see Hayden walking into Andy's office, and he's like, I don't appreciate you undermining me on this case. Andy's like, I wouldn't have to undermine you if you didn't make it a competition. Andy's like, if you put the same energy as you do trying to one-up me, you wouldn't have to worry about me undermining you. Now get out of my office because I got work to do. Back over at the salon, we see Karen and Sabrina having a conversation because Sabrina came over there to talk to Karen about the baby shower and all this other stuff. And Sabrina's like, speaking of baby shower, have you talked to Danny? And Karen's like, no, I haven't talked to her. Sabrina's like, well, I think you should talk to her. Karen's like, I'm not doing it. Karen's like, she was the one that ran her mouth after I told her not to. Sabrina's like, well, you know she can't hold water. Karen's like, well, if she want to be friends with me, she's going to have to learn how to tape her leaky mouth shut. Sabrina's like, enough about all that. I wanted to ask you something. Karen's like, you could ask me neither. Sabrina's like, well, how do you feel about your ex being your sperm donor? Karen's like, well, I can't judge because 2 of my exes are my sperm donor. Sabrina's like, yeah, you're right. Karen's like, well, it's not about how I feel about it. It's about how you feel. Karen's like, where'd you get this suggestion from anyway? Sabrina's like, I got it from Maurice. Sabrina's like, Maurice suggested that I ask Calvin to be my sperm donor. And Pam comes out of nowhere, and she's like the one who was wearing women's panties. And Karen's like, Pam, stop listening to my conversation. And Sabrina's like, well, did she get paid for that? Karen's like, no. For Hayden's, Tamara's complaining about Hayden wanting shrimp and crab gumbo for dinner, and as she's complaining, she gets a text from Gary saying, don't ignore me. Like, don't make me tell my man. And Gary texts back, stupid enough, and says, tell that fool. Tamara's like, how about I show him better than I could tell him. Tamara takes it upon herself to send this man a video that she recorded off the parent of them getting down to business. And I'm like, Tamara, as much as you want to get back at this man for hurting your feelings after you confess your feelings to him, there's a lot of things you don't know about this man. He makes people go missing, and you might be the next one. Please be careful, Miss Girl, and watch your surroundings carefully. We see Gary's reaction to this video, and he is bad. Over at the airport, Danny is trying to have a conversation with Tony, but he doesn't want to hear nothing she has to say because he's still mad at her. He tells Danny to pass out these pamphlets because there's going to be a meeting later, and Danny's like, well, you tell me about all the other meetings, why can't you tell me about this one? Tony's like, well, you're going to have to find out whatever. Back over at the law firm in Andy's office, the girls are celebrating a little victory that they got over Hayden today. And Fatima's like, don't you think we're moving a little too fast? I bet you he's over there plotting something right now. And the next thing we see, he's over there talking to Gary. Over in Gary's office, Hayden and Gary are having a conversation, and Hayden comes over to complain to Gary about what Andy did today. Hayden's like, you won't believe what this B did in the meeting today with Miss Willis. Gary's like, which one? Tamara, Fatima, Andy? Hayden's like, don't call Tamara no B. Gary's like, I know you didn't catch feelings for her. Hayden's like, I actually did, but I don't think she feels the same way. Gary's like, you think she's sleeping with another nigga? Hayden's like, I don't know, but for real, she's been real secretive with her phone. And I don't know what she hiding, but whatever it is, it's definitely in her phone. Jordan brings Andy lunch to the law firm, and they both apologize to each other. And Andy's like, if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't do it any differently. I would just insist that she tell you. Back over at the salon, Karen and her mom are getting ready to go out for lunch, and the next thing you know, Aaron walks in with a stroller. Karen's like, what is this? Aaron's like, it's this state-of-the-art stroller for the twins. Karen's like, nah, you doing too. First of all, how do you not know that I want to be the one to pick out my stroller? I'm the one that's going to be strolling it. Second of all, you just found out that you're to follow one of my babies, and now you want to come in and doing all this stuff. Aaron's like, I'm doing too much? Aaron's like, no. He's like, excuse my language, Miss Lisa, but actually, hell no. Aaron's like, I'm tired of you coming at me with a foul attitude when all I want to do is help. Actually, what I think it is, you've never had a man do enough for you. Actually, you never had a man go over and beyond for you, so you don't know how to accept it. And that's one of the reasons that Zach couldn't deal with you. Karen's like, excuse you? Because you know that hurt, right, Karen? You know it did, because I feel like, ooh, he eat you up. But this is the part that you really hear up on. He's like, I don't want to say this in front of your mom, but I will. You have a sorry outlook on life, and you blaming everybody else for your problems. You blame me, Zach, Fatima, your friends, but you need to look in the mirror, because the person that might be responsible for all that is the person that you look at in the mirror. Aaron's like, you know what? I loved you, and I still love you to this day, and I loved you even when you were still trying to hold on to your memories of Zach, and even when you didn't want me. He's like, guess what? I'm not going to let you come between the relationship between me and my child. Actually, I'm going to be here to take care of that child and your sibling. So you better get with the program. And guess what? Keep the stroller. When I say that man ate her up and left no crumbs, that's exactly what you did. And once Air leaves, Karen turns to her mom and says, you see how you just talked to me? Miss Lisa's like, yeah. Miss Lisa's like, if you were smart enough like I raised you to be, you would take everything you said to heart. Back over at Zach and Fatima. Zach and Fatima have a conversation, and Fatima's like, I got something to tell you. Angela gave me a suggestion. I think we should look into it. Zach is like, what's the suggestion? And Fatima's like, she suggested a nanny. Zach is like, oh yeah, we can get a nanny. Fatima's like, she won't be cute though. Back over at the airport, Tony and Danny are having a conversation because she comes to Tony to apologize. He's like, I'm sorry I ever exposed your daughter to something like that. I know it's too early and I shouldn't have, but I understand that your kids are bad and y'all come as a package deal. And that's the package I want. Did I want to return the package back to sender? Of course I did. Before this conversation, she tells Tony that she went to her friends for advice, and she told Tony what Zach said, and he's like, I think Zach's your best friend. Fast forward to the apology and Danny apologizing. I appreciate you apologizing, but let's get down to what Zach said. While they're trying to do the process of what Zach's saying, there's this lady, she comes in and she's like, Tony, I've seen I come at a bad time. Danny's like, who's this G.I. Jane looking bee? Lady's like, let me formally introduce myself. I'm Tiffany, I'm Tony's wife. And Tony's like, this is my ex-wife. I'm like, which one is it, ex-wife or wife? But let me know what you guys think about the episode. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, turn your bell notifications. Bye!